There's not much to do there.
Good evening.
Over to Shannon. Good evening. Yeah.
Hi, everybody. How we doing? Good to see everybody. I'm Shannon, and these are all. Oh, that way. Which way? That way. These are all the lovely people. I'm from the United States. Down, up, right, left. Do you guys want to introduce yourself? Say hi, and then we'll get started.
Yeah, sure. I'm James. I'm in Kuala Lumpur.
I'm Julius. I'm in Singapore.
And I'm Adriana, reporting live from Aotearoa in New Zealand.
Okay, I love it so much. Okay, so today on the last show, when I popped in for just a second, and now all of a sudden here I am, we decided we were going to chat about parents and helping out parents during this crazy time. So I am not super familiar with all of you in your personal lives, but I know that there are a couple of you in this stream with me that are parents, correct? Yes, James. And so let's start off with you. How are you feeling as a parent, as someone that has a student in this crazy time? How are you feeling? How's it going for you?
I think the real challenge is that as a parent and a teacher, I understand that if COVID really comes into Malaysia, it's impossible to separate the kids out completely. And we do our best. Every teacher's trying their best to get masks. And the kids are largely good at wearing masks, but distancing is always going to be a challenge. And of course I'm concerned, but I'm concerned about everybody's health. And I think Malaysia's doing a very good job. Right now, we're not as good as New Zealand and Singapore, but, we're doing okay. We are worried about a second mini wave, but when I talk to the UK or anybody in the US, I'm like, yeah, it's like a little tiny ripple, really, rather than a full-on wave. Whereas, when I talk to my brother and those that are associated with the US, they're like, 210,000 people have died of it in there. And I think, everybody knows somebody, even a relative of a relative, in my case, has been affected and has caught it. So, it really is. It's worrying. And I want schools to be safe, and I want them to do the right thing. So that's, as a parent, I'm just worried. My students were fine in distance learning. But, they have two parents who are around.
Right. Yeah, no, for sure. Absolutely. And that's awesome. Hi, Gary. Welcome. I hear you're a parent as well, correct?
Yes, I am a parent of two kids.
Okay, awesome. So how are you feeling? We just heard from James. How are you feeling about, and how your kids are doing and how school's going for them in this whole COVID experience?
My kids are, I just transferred my kids because I know that their former school will have everyday classes. Now with this new school, they have 2 days in a week class, whole day class, compared to the former school wherein every day they are having classes. What's good with the online classes is that I can see them. I don't have to worry about bullying. But then my worry now is their physical health, because the whole day they are seated in front of the computer. And that's my concern. Just like ours, as teachers, we sit in front of the computer the whole time, and lack of exercise means unhealthy lifestyle. So there are good points and bad points, but I'm thankful that I can supervise my kids. But the thing is, they don't have this. My youngest kid is a very social person. Now he doesn't have any friends to play with. He's 11 years old. He loves to play after school. So I let them play for 15 minutes after school in the school ground. Now he doesn't have this opportunity to mingle. So these are some of my insight and concern about this new setup.
Totally.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the conversations I'm hearing over and over from parents on our end. Because a lot of the United States, we are completely virtual in a lot of areas. In where I live, nobody's back, and they're really having that conversation about bringing the little kids, the young kids back. But So many parents are so worried about the mental health of their children. And, you know, physical health is always an issue. And obviously, you know, like Georgina mentioned in the chat, the physical health often then, you know, carries over to the mental health too. And vice versa, right? Like if we're stressed, it affects the physical nature.
I mean,
more
are
so.
children allowed to exercise outside in the Philippines, Gary?
Again, sorry.
Are they allowed to exercise outside?
No.
Oh.
We're not allowed. Adults are allowed to go out, but the kids between 18 to 60, well, 50 are not allowed to go out.
Right.
They're not allowed to go to a mall. They're not allowed to go to anywhere. Just they have to stay inside. So that's the sad part of it. We usually on a Sunday we go out for dinner or for lunch. We can't do it now. We tried once, but when we asked the restaurant, they are not allowed. So we ate inside the car. So, you know,
are they even allowed to the park or something like that?
No, they are not allowed to go anywhere.
Wow.
So that's the sad part.
Yeah.
Shannon, in the US, are they allowed to? Children allowed to go out?
Well, okay, so it's an interesting thing. I mean, it depends on where you are in the United States. So like over in our area, you know, it's all about county cases, right? So each state has kind of dictated that the head of state can determine that. And no, not really. I mean, in my area, not so much. So I live in California, and they're stuck. Although it's interesting, we can't come back to school, but my school just recently started allowing for conditioning for sports. So they can't actually be indoors, but they can go outside and play, or at least practice, run, condition. And that's an interesting recent development. And I know parents are really, really grateful seeing them, you know, parents on the message boards all over social media. They're very grateful that like kids can at least have that interaction. The unfortunate thing is it doesn't really probably help our COVID numbers really well. You know what I mean? So it's, I don't know, hit and miss depending on where you live. You know, some people are completely back, so it's not really kind of an issue.
I'd like to answer the question of Georgina.
Yeah.
Yes, it increases my stress level. And I just observed that I get easily irritated when I'm inside the house all the time. So I usually, we find time, we try to find time on a weekend to go out. Just get out of the house, just drive somewhere, just to change the scenario. Because it's different. I don't know.
I want to see the irritated version of Gary, actually.
Yeah, I can imagine it.
Because I live in a block here in Singapore, and in front of the block is a playground. And of course, there are loads of kids, and they're like very loud. And ever since I moved in this place, I've been so annoyed by kids shouting outside. During COVID, everything was like... And I was like, I kind of miss them. And right now they're back and they're just shouting outside, but at least I'm happy, you know, they're alive. So that goes my stress level as well. So
yeah.
Okay. So in Indonesia, they can go out, but they can't associate.
Yeah. The space, the social distancing. So I was also thinking like, and I'd be curious for all of your guys' perspective on this. So we're all teachers. So when it comes to helping kids and students, our own or whatever, like we know kind of what to do. But what about those parents that don't have a teaching background? How do you think they're feeling?
I think the biggest thing to remind them though, and same with teachers, is this whole concept of working from home, that we are not working from home. We are responding to a crisis situation. And that goes for parents as well. And here in New Zealand, there's a big drive to say that you are not teachers, because we don't want to go down that road, if we're honest, and saying parents are teachers too, because we'll either do ourselves out of a job or we're inviting them to constantly judge us for what we're doing, that kind of thing. So, a lot of the message that's coming through from my friends who are teaching here in New Zealand is saying that to parents, that you are not a replacement teacher. You support just like you would support as a parent. You might have to step up and do a little more, but it's just constant feedback. What's working and what's not working? You know, what is it that, because we had in Malaysia, the school in Malaysia, they were saying a lot of things like, God, I couldn't the kids couldn't do that without me having to help. So we had to adjust the lessons so that it's nice for the parents to support, but as much as possible, we have to try and get the students with independent learning as much as we can.
And we are asking parents to supervise like they would with homework. They're more of a teaching assistant or a cover supervisor than they're not planning the lessons. They're not coming up with schemes of work or anything like that. They're just maybe helping their children with some of the activities. And for younger children, they do need that hands-on help. But that's just good parenting. That's what parents do for 2, 3, 4-year-olds.
Yeah. What do you guys think, Julius? What is your perspective on that?
Information and communication is vital because ever since the whole thing started, we invested a lot in communication and then informing every step that we're doing. So the parents always regarded our e-brief and the newsletter to the parents as very, very important. And we had various articles about well-being and ideas and what you could do as well. So I think that communication and explaining this to them, look, we're going to, as Adriana said, is a response to a crisis, and then we're all together. This is what we'll be doing. The school is closed right now. Classes are online. If you have problems, just talk to us, to the teachers. We have a well-being, a department, a counselor and stuff. Please contact us, talk to your teacher or talk to us, so that permanent information and guiding them step by step was vital in our relationship with the parents. And of course, in every case, we had various parents coming and say we didn't know what to do, or then work from home. And we've even got a video of kids putting small cars in the microwave and seeing sparks and stuff. I mean, work from home, right? It was impossible, but I think we survived somehow, and then we adapted to it.
In my case here, we have to educate parents who are not teachers, we have to inform them about screen time. We have to tell them what does it mean, what is the effect of too much screen time, including the phone, including the use of computer, including the use of iPad. So because I don't know if I'm old enough, because the parents now are they born with gadgets too. I don't know if it's correct. That is why they don't know how to control themselves. So when they are parents also, they don't know how to educate their kids since they are born with this technology. So educating them about the proper use of technology or these devices is essential. In my case,
it's a lot about my kids. Yes, it's about my kid. A lot about modeling.
Yes, that's the thing, modeling.
Because if you read a book, your children will read a book. If you stay on the phone, they will basically copy you.
Yes.
I was just saying,
that's a big cry, Gary.
My kids have no idea what a time without the internet was like. I mean, to them, that's ancient history.
Georgina brings up a good comment or a statement in the chat. She said, that's it, Gary. So how can we help parents learn about screen time? If they're not educated, how can we raise awareness? What are some things we can point them to, platforms, websites?
Okay, one resource that I got, which I think very useful, is commonsense.org or Common Sense Education.
Common Sense Media, yes.
They have tips on what can you do. For example, during mealtime, no gadgets on the table. You do not entertain anything about, when there are alerts or notification, you don't entertain them or turn it off, or just don't bring it on the table. Now, sometimes it seems impossible to do, but you have to start at least one meal a week, and then you will increase it day by day. Let's say once a week, and then twice a week, and then now we're every day. It's a policy now. Every mealtime, no gadgets on the table. That's every day, every meal. So simple as that. But for some, it's very difficult to do.
Yeah.
But
I would say as well, these things we're talking about, these are not sort of COVID reactions. These are conversations we should have had before COVID.
Yes.
Screen time was a big thing then, now probably even more so because we're virtual learning, having device-free dinners. These are workshops that I was running 2 years ago for parents, so they haven't really changed, but perhaps they're just a bit more in their faces now because, every time they look in the room, their child is on the computer with virtual learning. And then when you ask them, what do you do to relax? Well, same with me. I watch Netflix on a screen. What do you do? I play games on a screen. I talk to my friends on a screen.
Right.
I think it is about the quality. I just wanted to add one more site, Be Internet Awesome, which is another good one.
Yeah.
But Common Sense Media is just such a fantastic resource. It's got everything to help you judge media. But I think if you're locked in and stuck like the kids in the Philippines, I think we just have to say, well, different qualities of media. And some media is okay for you to relax. Some media is for you to engage and use your brain. But yeah,
I remember I invited James because we had a parents orientation. So I invited James. What can we do inside the house to at least control the use of internet? And he said, just turn it off on a specific time. Because since we have internet in the entire, we have signal in the entire house. So when it's bedtime, turn it off. As simple as that.
Yeah. We in one of the parent workshops that I ran last year, we role played how to say no to your child. It's like, so I want the iPad, and that's what your child says, and how are you going to respond? It was literally like, I'm going to say to them, now it is time to read a story. Okay, that's great. Go home and try it. But to role play something like that was very ironic. I don't have children.
I bet. I was just thinking, like, I don't have children either, and I don't plan on it, but like I can imagine that has really, based on what I'm seeing from parents on my end, my students' parents, right? Like there is a lot of that idea of helicopter parent kind of swooping in. And I feel like that's become, and it's not necessarily a bad thing because I'm grateful that parents are involved, right? Like it's a hard job, I hear my friends say. But I think like we think, this should be common sense. And I think so much has shifted in since I was a kid and the way that my parents told me no. And I think that largely is because of, technology and the access there. And so I think paring it back to that simplistic approach of role playing has so much value. And I think that, as we continue to progress, like you mentioned, Adriana, like it's in their face. There's no escaping it right now. It's even so much more important. It's been a conversation, but like we really need to elevate it. Georgina asked also, you mentioned, Adriana, this idea of parents and, teaching kids and talking about technology use and all that stuff. She asked, do you think schools should be expected to be the entity who support parents? Like how much ownership should actually be on the parents?
I think in terms of ownership, parents are quite ignorant about the tools that we're using in school. I think, Gary, you rolled out something about G Suite for parents to explain to them, these are the tools that we're using so they can see the purpose and the value of it. But yeah, I do think we can get a lot more done effectively if our parents are on board. And I'm saying that from a private school aspect, an international school. And I mean, as a tech coach, if I found that my colleagues sometimes weren't on board with new ideas, I would run workshops for the parents. And the parents would be like, I really like this. This is great. Google Classroom is a perfect point. You pitch Google Classroom to, this is early days, to teachers, and they're like, oh God, another thing I have to do. Oh, what is this? But you pitch it to the parents, who then pitch it to their teachers. So you kind of go around the houses to get to the front door. And that really, really helped a lot. And I just think, we have a thing where the parents want them to be online from early in the morning to the afternoon. And if they're not engaging, then they're not doing anything. They're being lazy because they don't know any better. And so, you know, we're starting parent workshops just to sort of talk to them about screen time and, you know, Zoom fatigue. It's a real thing. And these are the tools that we use so that they don't need to be directed by the teacher the whole time. We have an IB curriculum that wants the students to be independent and, you know, collaborate and all these things. And yet our parents are asking us to be, you know, on hand and directing traffic for the whole day. So yeah, for us, it makes our lives much easier if we're constantly flagging up to the parents that we are the educational experts. We do know our stuff. Yeah.
I mean, one of the things I heard, which was really quite inspiring, is that you are actually paying enough for a professional, and therefore you should listen to the teachers who have got masters in their subject and degrees in their subject. You are not paying for a maid, you know, who you might have to direct.
Yeah. But sometimes they forget that. It is something simple there. But I mean, you think about state schools, and you know, with my experience in teaching here and in England, that is what they think. Just because they've been through the education system makes them an expert. And it's like, you know, it doesn't. Just because I eat at McDonald's doesn't mean to say I can make a Big Mac.
That's a good point. Maybe I can Adriana, you visited the school in Singapore, and then remember you saw the fika that we have, like in the staff lounge for the teachers, just to relax and we talk. We have the similar thing for the parents as well. So we kind of like educate parents. So we have these digital coffee mornings every Wednesday morning, and then parents come to school whenever they drop the kid. They used to pre-COVID, probably will start again soon, and then they used to come back. They used to come in the canteen. We just literally sat down with them, and then we have this Flipboard. Maybe you can mention this website, flipboard.com, where we curate like various articles about well-being, about STEM, about like what you could do, and they can see and they can read those articles, because everybody's using the public transport, so they can read on there. They have an app and they can read stuff related to students, how to I don't know, how to teach your child, how to talk about well-being and stuff like that. And again, this is like a wallet where you curate articles and then you distribute them via the applications to teachers. But again, digital, like informal get together with the parents and just running through, look, we're doing this, we have that, we're doing STEM classes with the students, we have library classes, we have CCAs after school, just like get them, and then we'll do this in terms of technology, in terms of health, well-being, in terms of learning resources, in terms of learning support and so on. And I think that's very important, more important than a teacher workshop, which is pre-planned, red carpet, you know, everybody comes with expectations and stuff. So let's just get for a coffee, like a discussion like this, basically. So you are the parents, right? So I can tell you what I do. That's good.
So do you find, sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, I find Flipboard really useful for sharing information because it's so quick. Its only real limitation is you can't share PDFs on there.
You just share websites, basically. That's what we use it for. I find the link, I find this article. You know, we share articles. Hey, did you guys shared this chocolate on chat, right? Parents share different topics, even related to schools or not. So rather than have this like WhatsApp and then where the people start fighting, you might as well just have a Flipboard, pre-curated content. Hey, how you use Google Classroom for parents or something like that. That's it.
So in the like where I am, you know, a lot of parents, it's a very us versus them kind of experience, like parents versus teachers. And so I'm wondering, as you were speaking, I was wondering, you know, because you've built those connections and that platform is there, do you feel that like parents are more empathetic to educators, as well as do you feel like they're like kind of more on your side when maybe their student isn't doing what they're supposed to be doing, or you know, missing the mark or whatever it may be?
I'll just give a quick answer. At least we speak the same language. We have the same terminology. I think that's the most important advantage. Yes,
Absolutely.
please, James. You wanted to say something.
I was just going to say, if you have reached out to parents and you're making the effort and you're seen to be going the extra mile, then I think parents will respect that. But at the end of the day, they want what's best for their kid, and that's what they care about.
Which we do as well. So it's
Yes,
just meeting
and
in the
I
middle,
think-
isn't it? Just
yeah, and if
constantly
you can
saying we
show
both
that-
want the same thing. We shouldn't
Yeah.
be at loggerheads. Yeah,
if
about
the
it.
teacher can prove that you want the best for their kid, then you're halfway there, like Adriana says.
Right. So it's not only important to build the relationships with the students, but really go out of your way early on to kind of connect with the parents as well. If you want the full, full experience and everybody traveling.
Yeah.
Good suggestion. Maybe I'll pitch that idea to have a workshop for parents, or maybe a coffee shop inside the school, so parents can wait for their kids there. While waiting, they can read something or converse with other people. It's a good idea. But let me ask Julius, how are you able? Is it the decision of the school to have it, or someone pitch it? Because I'm not very sure. Having the parent workshop.
Sorry,
that's every Wednesday school's decision.
Sorry, one more time. The question. Sorry, you asked James, right?
I think
you
asked me.
Yes.
Okay, we conducted the EdTech department. We started and then we pitched that because there were so many parents just like waiting outside, and we were thinking like, hey, let's just invite them for a coffee and everybody sit together and we can just talk. And then we just made it digital coffee morning. That's what we call it. Later, once it started off and then caught some wind, we presented to the leadership. They agreed, of course, and we carried on.
How was the reception? How was the? Because I'm not sure if the admin of a school will easily say yes to that. Because I don't know. Maybe it's a culture here in the Philippines that no, don't. Usually, just like China, it's them versus us.
So it's a big barrier. It's a gap in between the parents and the teachers, right?
Yes.
And they see them like very like a gods. They see the gods coming out of the school, right? That's how the parents see that. Well, small approach maybe some incentives. Hey, just come for a coffee. Maybe you can talk to the leadership saying that, look, I would like to have a small presentations, and then you just like start building upon and then making it as a sort of recurrent. Let's meet every Tuesday. Let's just talk about that. It has to be simple and of course I understand the situations. If you don't have, there was a comment here, if you don't have a coffee shop or a canteen, which would be ideally just to sit down at, but it can be various ways. I think it's just
I mean, it doesn't cost much to get a few cups and do it that way. When my mum used to teach infant school, one of the things I remember was that she had a reading club for parents and kids, and in some cases she was teaching the parents as well as the kids.
That's great.
And and I say that was before they went to school. So you've got to kind of think what would work for the parents. But in our international schools and private schools, we have a lot of parents who they're new to the country and they want to meet other parents. So there is a natural motive there.
Yeah. I would love to kind of shift the conversation a little bit, if it's okay with you. And how do you think students are feeling at home? Do you think they're feeling like frustrated, either, for those that maybe don't have that support of the parents, because either parents don't know how, or they're working, or and then how do you think the students feel who have full parent support and the parents are like hovering? What do you think that experience is for our students?
It's very mixed. I mean, I do think that some of my older students delighted that it was distance learning and really looking forward to it and saying it would have been great. And then I have my tutor group who all said, no, we definitely don't want that. So I think age plays part, and I think also how comfortable you are online. My subject is computer science, so you're probably not too surprised that a lot of my kids were very comfortable with it online. I was very comfortable teaching online. So, that perhaps we were the minority.
Yeah.
Well, in my case, my kids are a bit frustrated because sometimes the instruction of the teacher is not very clear. So, like my son, Daddy, my teacher is asking me to submit the link. Okay, do you have a submission form? No, she just announced it. Let me see the instruction. There's no instruction in Google Classroom. She just announced it during synchronous class. Okay, this is what you do. Okay, let's get the link of your output, and then you email your teacher. Do you know the email? No. So, okay, maybe you talk to her during synchronous class. So he's a bit frustrated. So there are some things that, we as teachers, we have to provide the instruction very clear, and we have to provide where to put it, where to submit things. So maybe I understand that the teachers are also, maybe the teacher is not familiar with Google Classroom and the ins and outs of it. So, adjustments, they are still adjusting. So I just told my kid to ask her during synchronous class.
Yeah, I think as well, when you look at especially like us with the IB curriculum, hi Georgina, it's really important, all those qualities for a learner profile and stuff, you're just testing them now. So it was a bit of a shock to the system for me, like, kind of been in 2 schools now under lockdown, where all those qualities that you think, oh yeah, they're going to collaborate together and they're independent learners and, they're naturally curious and stuff like that. And then you've got 11 kids just staring blankly at you at the screen when you're like, okay, what should we do for this project? And they're like waiting for you to basically hold their hand through it. And you think, you're not really independent, are you? So it's good. I like that it's pushed the boundaries for our students. I like that it's pushed the boundaries for our teachers. I don't want to go back to what was there before. I think even if we're all back in school, I want to see more flipped learning. I want to see more technology use. I want to, broaden their horizons and then keep them broad. I don't want them to go back to the way it was. I don't like saying new normal because nothing's normal about any of this.
No.
So yeah, it's a new crazy. It's a new crazy.
Yeah, awesome. Georgina, welcome. What are your thoughts? How do you think your students are feeling, those that have support and those that don't?
Yeah, absolutely. So I definitely think that it is difficult for parents and students as far as getting the support they need for the lessons that are happening, whether those are hybrid, synchronous, asynchronous. So I think it's hard being a parent, and I'm not a parent, just for the record, so no children, but I am working as an educator and a leader and trainer, and it is hard hearing from the parents. We don't know how much help do we need to give our children at home or not. Like, how much what I'm hearing a lot of is, how much help do you want us to help our children? And so this is a really big question. And I'd love to hear from you guys, because as you know, I give a lot of parent workshops. So, if you have tips, and I've been really enjoying hearing your tips in the chat. But yeah, it's a really hard thing to balance, right? Because each child will need a different amount of support as well, I think.
Yeah. I have a best friend who her son is a kindergartner. I don't know if that's the same level at where you guys are, but just starting school for the first time, and it happens to be in a virtual setting. And so she has no prior knowledge except for, what she knew in school. And we had a conversation recently. She reached out because she's like, "You're a teacher." And I'm like, "Yeah, not of kindergartners, high schoolers, but okay, I'll try, And her biggest thing was, she's like, I feel like the teacher needs me to be right next to my child the whole time, because they're unmuting, they're shouting things out. And I had to explain, and she's like, "But it's driving me crazy. Like, I can't function at home. I can't do my job because I'm sitting with my child all day long." Right. And I asked her, why do you feel the need to micromanage that experience? You know what I mean? Like, why do you feel like you need to be the one that keeps your son from unmuting and saying something silly like a 5-year-old does?
Yeah.
And she said, you're like, she thought about it and she's like, well, I don't want to be embarrassed, and I don't want my kid to be that kid. And I was like, but every kindergartner is that kid. They're learning, they're navigating. And so and just kind of giving her the grace to say, like, that teacher is figuring it out. You don't have to be the teacher, because it's really, she was worried that it's ruining her relationship with her son. right? Because
Yeah.
she's constantly nagging him
Nagging,
and not
yeah.
letting him have
But
that
then-
creative
So,
expression.
so the takeaway from that would be that teachers should maybe have that parent meeting and set the expectations and say, look, I'm not expecting you. These kids are going to be all over the place and it's going to sound like chaos and carnage. But, you know, yeah, it probably is chaos and carnage because that's what it's like at the beginning of the year in the classroom anyway, right? It's like herding cats. So, you know, you just have to say to the parents, I don't expect you to be sitting there as my child mutes and unmutes. Yeah.
And I like what you said earlier in the show, Adriana, about them not having to, the children don't need to be online for the whole hour, every hour for the whole school day. And that is a battle. And just so you know, that's happening here in the Middle East as well. And I think it's everywhere because people want us to make sure. And I wonder too, therefore, what kind of misconceptions do parents have about school in general? Do they think that when children come to school, that they are receiving input 100% of the school day? Do they understand that we provide collaborative spaces for children to learn inside the classroom and out where the teacher is not necessarily giving that input? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hi, Eric.
Hey, Eric. Yeah. But again, it's that kind of thing where it's the communication aspect, isn't it? You know, so if you were running parent workshops before and saying this is, you know, a style of teaching, let me tell you about, you know, design thinking, let me tell you about play-based learning. So, you know, you're actually, I always think it's good to showcase that we are experts in our field and just be saying, you know, it looks like the children are playing, but this is how we, you know, are tracking their progress and things like that. And this is how we use Seesaw to share it with you, that kind of thing, so that, you know, they are getting the wow factor from us. They are like, wow, she really knows her stuff. Yeah, I totally do. Yeah. So, you know, again, if we, you know, take all these tips, it's just, yeah, I always see it as a sales pitch. As a tech coach, everything is a sales pitch. I'm either pitching it to my colleagues, to the students, to the parents, or to the admin team. Just, it's a big sales pitch about things that I'm, you know, and the second thing that I always put under a proposal is the benefits. You know, so it's just like, I want to do this. These are the benefits. And even if they don't read down to the budget, you know, or something important like that, as long as they see the benefits, and sometimes it's a big kudos to the school, or parents will be more on board with what we're saying, and they might not read beyond that because that's what they like to hear, right?
Do you guys think that parents see us as like educators and leadership as almost like counselors for them so that we can listen to them, or do you think they see us as a different role?
That's a good question. I mean, we got into habits with parent workshops that afterwards there was like a little group that would sort of say the issues that they were having, and you'd see other new parents going, yeah, I have that as well, you know, like that role playing and stuff like that. So yeah, sometimes it is a venting space as well. Always protect your colleagues though. If you learn nothing from that, so they will come in and they'll be ranting about a particular teacher that's done a particular thing that they really don't like. And, you know, first and foremost, you're explaining, even if you don't agree with what they've done, you're explaining why they may have done that and trying to have a conversation about it. But yeah, sometimes it is a good venting space for them. Yeah.
In like in the case of my wife is also a teacher. She acts like a guidance counselor too, because of the parents venting out on their frustration about what is happening right now, the effect of this pandemic to their families. One of the parent lose their job, they have to go home, you know. So as teachers, we have to be there for the parents to just to listen. So, but the thing is, sometimes, you know, listening to all this, it burdens us to as teachers. So, good thing in my case, I'm not the one who listens to them. It's my wife, because we run a play school. We have these kids, and so most of the time, if parents are asking for something, so initially we talk about the kids. They talk about the kids, and then later on they will air out some things, their frustration to what is happening. So we are, as teachers, I think we also need to be we have to be ready to listen to them too, just to at appease them.
Mm.
Absolutely. And I think I've learned, I've been in education 10 years, and I've learned, I think more than anything, that a lot of the parents in my world, they don't really feel like it's okay to cross that line sometimes initially. And so it's really important to extend like via email or just in the beginning of the year saying, hey, don't forget, we're in this together and it's not going to work unless we do it together, kind of like we were talking earlier. And so here I am. And then following up weekly just with an email of like, let me tell you what, is going on in my class this week so that you can come alongside your student and support them. And hey, by the way, if you need anything, don't hesitate to reach out. And I think it really does enhance the relationship that exists within the space, but also it allows them to say, okay, I am the parent, but, I may need support once in a while too. But I agree with you. I do believe that there is like, sometimes you take that on as an educator because now you have all your students that are struggling, but now these parents are coming like, how do I fix this? And as a woman who doesn't have children, sometimes that's a struggle to walk that line and say, be how you could fix it. Cause I don't have that firsthand experience, but at least the open line of communication is there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's good.
Hi, Eric. How are you?
Hey, good. How about y'all?
Doing well. We'd
Great.
love to hear your perspective. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
So we've been chatting about just engaging with parents, how, you I believe you're a parent, correct?
No, actually, no.
Oh, you're not. Okay.
Sorry, yeah.
So you've probably had interactions with parents this year, though.
Yep.
How do you think they're feeling with this whole situation? And then, maybe you can offer, like, from your perspective, what's one tip maybe for those parents that are listening that they, can use to navigate this?
Yeah. Well, we're actually just getting ready to have our parent teacher nights. And it's interesting because in our elementary program, we had less participation than ever in our first virtual parent communications earlier this year. They're pretty used to like 100% participation, and they were down like really low, maybe 30% or something. And so, yeah, because people, it's kind of weird. People aren't sure, the physical option, they're often opting out, but then our parents are kind of intimidated by the tech. I mean, their kids are online and like regularly attending classes, but then when you ask the parents to do the same thing, a surprising percentage of them are not ready to do that. So yeah, we're trying to find, ways to make them comfortable and get them to come in. But it's just a very different situation. So yeah, they're having a hard time adjusting.
Yeah. What kind of I don't know, tips are you giving them to get them to come in? Like, how are you inviting them to that conversation?
I hear you. Well, I mean, we're actually like, because we're just being presented with this. Like, I have traditionally been in high school, and then I just started doing ed tech for the whole school. And so I'm just getting exposed to the information about how it's gone with first program that traditionally first programmers are elementary program that's traditionally had a lot of participation, and then how they're really went down. So we've already gotten less in the middle and high school, and so we're having to try to figure this out as well. Yeah. So I'm kind of trying to think of tips too. So I need some tips as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that that's a great place to transition for us for the remaining time of the show. Like, what are some tips that we can give? How do we give parents a voice? How can we support them? How can we, like, what practical tips would you give educators in relation to navigating this with parents?
I would definitely say a couple of things that is working well for us, or in my experience the last year, is having like a parent committee. So I don't know if you guys have like committees at your schools, but if you do, then that can be something that they can have like host more regularly, and that can be a space where they can all go and share together. So if like we're about to go into lockdown here in Jordan, but that could be then turned virtually, obviously, if it's not meeting in a physical space. And then also for teachers supporting the parents, it's important that teachers don't feel like they're backed into a corner when a parent is emailing or contacting them. And so do teachers know where they can ask that parent to go to get the support that they need? So for example, are your communication channels aligned properly so that all stakeholders know where they need to go to get the support? So taking that pressure off the teachers and saying, right, if you have technical support, you can message technical support at, and then that comes to that place. And then if you have a question regarding safeguarding, which members of leadership safeguarding team does that go to? And if it's related to the lesson, well, hey, that's me. I'm the expert and I'm happy to help you. Julius did fantastic in his storyboarding today for the English lesson, and Gary collaborated really well with Adriana, and etc. So do they know where they need to go?
Yeah.
That was me, by the way, trying to role play, taking Adriana's advice to like role play us into the scenario. Yeah. Do I get a virtual high five at least? Okay, great.
Yes. Adriana, you're on mute right now, but we'd love to hear what you have to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I really love all those ideas. I think that they're really, really good. But also as well, it's just like because we're saying all these things, support parents and stuff like that, but also just give them the space. Because it can be really overwhelming. I've had parents say to me, I'm just so sick of getting email after email. One guy showed me like he had like 15 emails, and and that's the same with the students as well. They just get totally overwhelmed with the information. So we have to be quite mindful, and that starts with the management, the admin, senior leadership and stuff like that, because they're the ones who set the tone. If you have a management team that a parent says something and suddenly the whole policy changes and we're all doing that because two parents said it, then that's not helpful either. But it's also having the space. Someone ran a parent workshop in my last school, and one of the parents voiced an opinion about how they were fearful of something, and the person running it actually said, perhaps this isn't the school for you. And we're all like, what the hell? But it was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant, because he just talked about all the virtues that the school was promoting and things like this. And this parent was saying, she was saying, I don't want any of those. I don't want my child to have it. And so he was quite clear on it, but it was pretty impressive. And he completely turned her around in the way of her thinking. But sometimes you need to have that freedom. So maybe it's about having that conversation first with your senior leadership and saying, what is the message we are sending out to our parents? Because like I say, I come from the point where I'm an expert in the field. So I'm supporting you to, learn what we're doing as teachers and educationists. But it's being able to say, I am the expert. I do know what I'm talking about, and know that management hopefully are going to say, yeah, she does know it. Our teachers do know that's why we employed them.
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder, so like, the communication conversation earlier, Adriana, you mentioned this idea that it's a lot of just like crisis management in a lot of ways, right? This idea that, it's all new, we're all figuring it out. And I think sometimes like all of the different facets of what is involved, like seep through the cracks, like they slip through the cracks, and we miss out. And so, at my site, we don't have that streamlined communication. And so I wonder, is it too late? 10 weeks in, is it too late for that? And how do we? Yeah, but how do we navigate that?
If you reach out to the parents, if you have email addresses or anything, I think that's it. And a lot of younger children and primary, they love the most. They want pictures of their kids. Seesaw is incredible for this. You put out a couple of pictures of the kids, I guarantee you've got those kids snapped out like that, because they want to see that. And particularly if you do it in a kind of private way, like an email or a little Seesaw blog that they can log into. That's surest way to get them on side of anything I know, is just send out some pictures of their kids having a good time at school.
It's never too late to start it. Definitely not. It's just, and I mean, like, I'm running parent workshops from starting in a couple of weeks, and the language might be an issue. So, I don't speak proper English coming from New Zealandy. So, but our parents speak Bahasa. So, but it's not a reason not to run it. It's just, I'm just going to run it. And if 5 people turn up, or, nobody turns up, that's okay. But at least I'm running it. The parents know that it's there. And as we progress, we'll start looking at translations, or, how we can support with the language, might even learn it. Who knows, but
the other thing,
I've still got to start it. Just start it.
The other thing is, think about your audience. Some parents are available at different times of day. And sometimes if the kids are younger, you need to do something with the parents and the kids in it together, because they're not going to get babysitting. You have to think about your context and what's going on. Some parents are working full time. And so, maybe that you can just start with an email or something that they can pick up.
As an international school, we also have a large turnover of families that come in and out across the school year. So we have like an onboarding where when they get their login information to our Google Classrooms, they get to have a welcome session with myself. And it's not just the parent or the student, it's the family together. So it's the entire family are in a session with me. Hey, welcome to your Google Classroom, logged in as the child. This is what you all will experience at home. And this is what you'll see from your teacher. And then we even set it up one morning where we had that session, and then we joined the very first Google Meet registration in the morning with them to help them into the online learning day. So, we need to meet the parents where they're at, and it should really be a family event if we can. Obviously, I'm sure Adrienne is like, man, I don't have time for all of that. But yeah, whenever we can, right? Whatever's possible and whatever support systems you have in place.
I mean,
I have a question. So when we ran the parent workshops and stuff, when we were handing out the student logins, I had a lot of parents saying to me, what's their password? And we had that difficult conversation where I don't give the login details of students in high school in year 5 and year 6, so upper end primary. I don't give them to the parents. And and I tell the parents and I tell the students, it is up to the students to choose to share. But then it's that long conversation, long term, about, the bonuses of sharing and not sharing, and, parents hassling and demanding as opposed to having, a good conversation with them. But it went all up to senior leadership and back down, because senior leadership were like, I just give it to them. And I'm like, nope. What's our thoughts on that?
Yeah, we don't give from secondary up. They're on their own as far as passwords go. And for primary, we give it to them, but they're in the transition from 6 to 7 when they jump over. So it's like they can reset that in term 2, I think, or halfway through term 2. But no, we agree with you, Adrienne. I say we, like myself, but yeah.
I mean, I would say at the opposite end of things that parents own those devices. You want that device, you take it off the kids, that's your perfect right. And while you pay for the internet coverage in your house, you have every right to every last scrap of data in it.
I'm
but
curious.
Is that the way you want to go? Is that the way you want to teach the children, that it's my house, my rules?
Well, no, but I think
in terms
of,
is that what we want our parents to be teaching our students?
Yeah.
You don't pay the bills, so you know.
But the thing is, until they are 18, you as the adult in that house are responsible for anything going on in that internet connection. So
I don't doubt that, but responsibility doesn't translate to these are my rules and you follow them, because eventually those children are going to be tipped out in the world where it's like, I don't have any rules. I make my own rules. And that's where it falls
which is why
apart.
you have to transition it. But what I'm saying is that, you do have to transition it. And the other thing is that most countries do not want kids having social networks till they're 13 or 16.
Social networks don't want their own kids having social networks until they're
exactly
25.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think, if the school wishes to take responsibility for those usernames and passwords, then that's on the school because they are parents in locum when they're at school. But when they're at home, as a parent, you have access to everything.
Yeah, that's why I love the phrase "to each their own," right? Like, it works for each and every different person, and we navigate that as we go.
So our student information system has a parent login, and honestly, at this moment, I can't tell you exactly how much information that gives them, but I'm pretty sure it gives parents access to grades. So what student information systems do you have, and do they allow parent logins? Are you like not choosing to use a parent login option, or because that would kind of alleviate the same problem you're talking about if it exists? But
we had family logins. So an entire family of users had a login that the parents would use. And then we found over the last year or so that they weren't really using them. So we haven't continued that this year. So it's an interesting conversation also. But that being said, we're also interested in portals. Do you use a portal, Eric, or log in directly to the Google Classroom or the Schoology or the Teams?
Well, we have the Guardian connection to Google Classroom, but we're using PowerSchool, and there's just a parent login that gives them access, I presume, to the basics, so they would have, they'd get notifications when there are changes to the students' grades, etc.
Yeah, it's kind of awesome. We use PowerSchool as well, but we just switched our learning management system to Schoology this year, and so those two talk, which is nice. But it's funny because half the teachers are using Schoology and half of them aren't. So it's like there's been a lot of disconnect with, what actually is the grade, because some things are syncing, some things aren't. One last thing that I wanted to maybe chat about, because I'm curious, is this idea of clarity across the site, the school site. What are the best tips we could really put into practice in regards to not inundating our students and our parents with 8,000 different platforms, from LMSs to everything else that we're using?
Don't buy so many platforms. I mean, honestly.
I knew he was going to say that. I knew he was going to say, just cut it all off.
I mean,
ask the students what works. Ask the students what they prefer. Start with them. What out of all the platforms that all the teachers are providing for you, what is the easiest, most user-friendly to get access to? Start with them and then work from there.
And you know what? Most kids would say, I just want Google Classroom. For me, it's Google Classroom with Google Sites. That's all the kids want, or whatever the Microsoft equivalent is. But they don't want anything more than that. They don't want Instagram and Facebook and everything else from school. For them, schoolwork is on Google Classroom plus the links on sites. And actually, the parental portal on that is plenty good enough for most things. And I think an actual personal email from your teacher once in a while, I think that's all that's required. And I think anything else is just too much. Unless you have a massive school, and then you've got to have schedules and systems. But if you can afford that, you can afford a all-in-one system like Firefly.
Okay. That's
right. Okay, time to wrap it up. What are we doing? A quick fire round, Shannon?
Sure, let's do a quick fire round. We'll start with you, James.
Oh, thank you. My number one hint for communicating with parents is get somebody else to do it. And so this week in Malaysia, we're having a digital maker fair, which is fully free and online. So anybody, anywhere can join in and have fun with that. So that's my hint.
I love it. I love it. Eric, what about you?
Well, we have realized that sometimes the parents that we most need to communicate with actually are least likely to reach out and least likely to participate. So we've actually recruited our office assistants to proactively reach out and say, hey, we'd like to see this parent, we'd like to see this parent, and so to contact them. And so we're going to see how that goes, but I feel pretty hopeful about that as a good technique, because it's easy to hide out and fall through the cracks if you want to as a parent. And so we're trying to reach out and make sure that doesn't happen any more than necessary.
Absolutely. Great tip. I love that. Gary, what about you?
Well, just remember that teachers are there for your kids, and you can reach out to them even if you're a parent. So I think open communication is the key to a better harmonious relationship, especially in this pandemic.
Awesome.
Totally.
Adriana?
I would say I've been teaching for a long time. And I'd probably say that like trying to get in touch with parents and things like that, I find it, I'm much better at it now and try my best. But then if I don't get in touch with them, just letting it go. And I don't lose sleep over the fact that sometimes I'm aware that some students I'm just collecting evidence on, they're not engaging. Then for whatever reason, I can't get through to them. I can't get through to their parents. So I feel like I am, just gathering evidence to show we as a school, as an entity, are trying our best to support, even though it's not happening. There was a great TED talk about something where you just hope that every student has one champion in the school. That's all they need. They just need that one teacher, right? And it's up to us to maybe look around and check that everybody has that one champion, even if it's not you. You know that there's another teacher that they go to, that they talk to. There's a support network there for them, even if it's not you. You don't have to be the support for everybody.
Yeah, that's great. Georgina?
Okay, I have a lot to share, but I picked something. I would like to say, help your students to help their parents. And so this is a playlist from Global GEG. So shout out to different people here who also supported in that. Little short 1.5 minute videos if they're stuck on how to do something in G Suite or in Google Workplace or Google Classroom. And so make sure that your students in the class know about this so they can go, we can go here, here, and here. So let your students help their moms and dads to help them if they're stuck. The other one is the tech toolkit for families and guardians that has a bunch of different links that can support parents at home as well. So try to make that, like Adriana was saying, like contact the parents, try to make it a full circle, try to help the students be the ones to take initiative to help their parents to get involved with the way we are supporting them in class.
Yes, I love that. And I will end with, everything they said. Plus, I just think that we're better together. And so even if we're nervous to reach out and be, start that line of communication with parents because we're nervous about judgment or how they're going to take it, I think that we should just take that risk and jump in. So thanks so much. Lots of good information, and we will see you next Thursday.
Bye.